A few years back, I found myself alone at home, savoring an unusually quiet night. My parents were out for a dinner date, and my siblings were away at college. I had planned to enjoy a marathon of my favorite TV show and indulge in some guilty pleasure snacks. As I sank into the couch, the silence of the house felt unnervingly loud. The old wooden floorboards creaked and groaned, and the wind outside seemed to carry eerie, haunting melodies. I tried to brush off the unsettling feeling, convincing myself it was just my imagination. However, the night wore on. The strange noises grew more persistent and disturbing. Footsteps echoed outside my room, and I could hear what sounded like someone rummaging through the kitchen. I told myself it was just the house settling, but a nagging sense of unease told me something was wrong. Determined to investigate, I slowly rose from the couch, my heart pounding in my chest. Every creak of the floor felt amplified as I made my way to the kitchen. The room was brightly lit and immaculate, yet a sense of dread clung to the air. That's when I heard it, a soft raspy whisper right in my ear, coming from all directions. I spun around frantically, but found nothing. The whispering grew more insistent, more urgent, telling me, "Get out while you still can." Panic surged through me. I raced to the front door, but my hand fell on a locked handle. Trapped. The whispering became a menacing cacophony, using me to flee. Grabbing a nearby vase for protection, I retreated to the living room, where I braced myself for whatever was coming. The sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps approached from the hallway. They grew louder and more foreboding. I gripped the vase tightly, ready to strike as the figure emerged. It wasn't what I had expected. It was a tall, gaunt woman with long silver hair and piercing eyes that seemed to pierce through my very soul. She wore a flowing white gown and moved with an eerie, deliberate grace. A cold shiver ran down my spine. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling. She didn't answer. Instead, she extended a skeletal hand and touched my face. A jolt of electricity surged through me, and suddenly I was overwhelmed by a flood of visions. I saw a once happy family now consumed by tragedy and loss. The woman in the same spot appeared sorrowful and trapped. Realization dawned. This woman was a ghost, bound to our home by years of unresolved sorrow. I knew I had to help her find peace. Summoning every ounce of courage, I took her hand. Together, we wandered through the house, uncovering long-buried secrets and memories. As we reached the front door, I knew it was time to let her go. I opened the door, and she vanished into the night, her eyes finally serene. Standing there, bathed in relief, I understood that this night would forever be etched in my memory. I had faced my deepest fears and helped a tormented soul find solace. A night that would leave me forever grateful. Last summer, after finishing college, I returned to my parents' house for the holidays, looking forward to a peaceful break. Nestled in a quiet neighborhood, their home was surrounded by towering trees that cast long, eerie shadows after dark. It was cozy, but alone at night, it could turn unsettling. Around exactly 3 a.m., I was wide awake, scrolling through my phone in my room. Suddenly, my phone rang and I saw my sister's name on the screen. It struck me as odd. Her room was just down the hall, and she could have easily come over to talk to me. But instead, I answered the call, and as soon as I said hello, no one was there, and the phone call got disconnected. Thinking it might have been an accident, I got out of bed and walked down the hall to her room. As I approached her door, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, sending a jolt of fear through me. I burst into her room to find her sitting up in bed, her face ashen and her eyes wide with terror. She pointed a trembling hand to the corner of the room, her voice quivering as she described the dark, menacing shadow that had been inches from her face. It had felt suffocatingly close, and she was convinced it was real. I tried to reassure her, suggesting it was just a nightmare, but she was adamant about the shadow's reality. The weird part came when I checked my phone. There was a record of the call from her number. Yet, when I looked back at her phone, there was no trace of the call that I had just received. It was as if it had just vanished into thin air. Confused and shaken, we decided to head downstairs. As we sat in the kitchen, I couldn't shake the eerie sensation that something was amiss. The house was eerily quiet, yet every creak and groan of the old structure seemed amplified, making me feel like we were not alone. It was as if the house itself was whispering secrets, despite our attempts to make sense of the night's events. We were left with more questions than answers. The sense of being watched persisted, and I couldn't escape the feeling that something malevolent was lurking just out of sight. The next day, when we told our parents, they dismissed it as a prank call or a bad dream. But I know what we had experienced was too vivid to ignore. After that night, the house became even more unsettling, as doors were slammed shut on their own, and I would hear footsteps in the hallway when no one was there. I tried to convince myself it was just the wind or my imagination, but deep down I knew something was wrong. Unable to ignore the growing dread, I decided to investigate a little. Armed with flashlights, I searched every room, closet, and corner, but found nothing unusual. Just as I was about to give up, a chilling whisper brushed my ear, a raspy voice murmuring, "Get out. Just get out while you still can." The voice literally sounded like it just came from the walls themselves, sending an icy chill through me. After realizing that we were in grave danger, I raced back to my room, grabbed my bag, and started packing. My sister saw me, and as she was looking at me, she got extremely terrified, started asking me what is going on, and I immediately told her that we had to leave immediately. She didn't question me as we hurriedly packed our things and fled the house without a backward glance. We literally never returned to that house again, and we never spoke of that night again. But the terror of that summer will remain with me forever, a haunting reminder of a nightmare we couldn't escape. A few years back, I worked as a security guard at City Hall. It was a job marked by its calm predictability until one night when everything changed. Part of my duties included patrolling the building, including the abandoned jail cells in the basement. Though the cells hadn't been used in years, it was my responsibility to check them regularly for any squatters or trespassers. It was only my second solo patrol when things took a sinister turn. I descended into the old prison cells, my flashlight casting long shadows in the narrow, dimly lit corridor. The hallway stretched on for what felt like an eternity, with flickering bulbs hanging from the ceiling barely illuminating the dark, oppressive space. As I moved past the fourth row of cells, the lights abruptly cut out, plunging me into utter darkness. My heart raced as I fumbled for my flashlight and flicked it on, only to see the beam jitter across the walls. I hurried back to the light switch, but just as I reached for it, the lights flickered back on. The unease gnawed at me, but I pressed on, determined to finish my patrol. I quickened my pace, checking each cell with mounting anxiety, but halfway down the hallway, the lights went out again, and this time, I heard the unmistakable sound of two cells slamming shut with a thunderous echo. Panic surged through me. I bolted down the hallway, my flashlight darting frantically across the walls as I sprinted towards the stairs. I took them two at a time, my chest heaving with adrenaline, bursting through the door at the top. I slammed it shut behind me and leaned against it, gasping for breath. I had escaped the darkness, but my pulse was still racing. Back in the main lobby, bustling with people, I tried to steady myself. My hands shook as I made my way to my workstation, my mind still reeling from the terrifying experience. I immediately called my supervisor, inquiring about any reported electrical issues. He assured me that there had been none. I wanted to recount the bizarre events, but my voice faltered. The terror was too fresh, too raw. I spent the next 2 hours at my workstation, my thoughts racing with what could have caused the eerie occurrences. Paranoia set in, making me jump at every little noise. When my shift finally ended, I fled the building as if the shadows themselves were pursuing me. From that night on, I avoided the basement at all costs, even if it meant taking longer routes or risking being late for my rounds. I steered clear of those cursed cells. When I eventually left City Hall for good, I felt a profound sense of relief. Yet, on the rare occasion when the night is particularly still, I can still hear the ghostly sound of those cells slamming shut, a chilling reminder that whatever haunted those dark corridors is still out there, waiting for its next visitor.